know, I'm something of a podcast myself. I'm something of a podcast myself.
All right. Welcome to yet another episode of Something of a Podcast, the only podcast brave enough to say, I'm something of a podcast myself. I am always your co-host, Mike Gamms, for better or worse. And with me, as always, is the incredibly talented KaiVonDoom. Say hello, Kai.
Hello, Kai.
Never gets old to me. If you are watching on video, you could see me moving around, not Kai. Deal with it. Doesn't matter. It's all good. You could hear both of us. And if you're listening to the audio version of this, you have no idea what I'm talking about. So it doesn't matter. But yes, we are back for episode, I think it's 14 now. I'm losing count, but I think we're at 14. But I do know that this is our first episode in Pride Month. Happy Pride.
Yes, happy Pride.
Yes. There's we are, well, right now it's the 7th. I'm not sure what day it's coming out. Pun not intended, but allowed there. But yeah, so we're a solid weekend, and I refer to it as Pride season because I'm just like, I know some cities they have it in July, like Rochester has their Pride in July, San Diego has a July Pride, so it's like you could kind of extend it to the whole season from June, July, and yeah. So how's your Pride been so far?
It's been all right. I haven't really done anything to like celebrate yet.
I see. Me neither really. I yeah, I other than watching in horror as all the brands and ExxonMobil and Raytheon and weapons manufacturers lined up to wish me a happy Pride. So that's always fun. What else is new though?
Not much to be honest.
Yeah, I feel you. June gloom, June doom, June VonDoom. We got that VonDoom June gloom.
I like that.
Go. Yep. And I don't know what my excuse is. But yeah. Have you seen anything cool lately, or well, actually, no. It's I think we wanted to, or I don't know how to intro into our first topic here. I'm struggling here.
Well, you were doing good because I was going to say I actually have rewatched Godzilla Minus One, which just popped up on Netflix.
See, there's my lack of self-confidence, and what I should have just committed. I was like, and you would have, I just should have handed the baton properly, and you would have taken it and ran with it. But instead, I had to make this awkward fumble that I'm continuing to extend right here. But this part's on purpose, at least. Yes. So you rewatched Godzilla Minus Zero, right? Or Minus One.
Yes, Minus One. Have you seen it at all?
Yeah, so I know you're a big Godzilla person, and you had mentioned it before when it came out in the theaters about how like cool it was, and I'd heard that, and then you said you told me the other day that it came out on Netflix. So I did watch it on Netflix, either was it not last night, the night before.
Yeah, so I think that might have been like the second day it was available on Netflix.
Yeah.
But I've always been like a huge Kaiju fan, which if you don't know, Kaiju is like the giant monster movies that they have in Japan.
Oh,
Godzilla obviously being the most famous one.
I thought that it was what it would be you if you were a character in Inglourious Bastards. You like that one?
Yeah, that was good. That was good.
I've been waiting like 2 days to make that joke. I had to get it out right.
Good now that I
Glad
know that you
you set
prepared
me
for
up
it.
so nicely by you said kaiju in the first sentence, and I'm like, now I just feel this relief because I've been waiting since I seen that movie, and I've talked to you and seen you since then, and had to resist the urge to do that. So we got that out of the way. Yes, it is a kaiju, which is basically the generic version of Godzilla, right? That's like the generic word for a Godzilla.
Yeah, it's pretty much that whole genre of like giant monsters. So Godzilla, Mothra, all of that.
And this is like your wheelhouse, right? You're a kaiju person. You're into this stuff, right?
Oh yeah, I grew up watching all these movies.
See, I'm not. I'm kind of like I've never gotten super into the monster movie thing or the kaiju's. I seen some Godzillas here and there, bits and pieces. I definitely saw that like 1999 Y2K Godzilla one. You remember that one that came out?
Yeah.
Yeah, the not good one. And I've not really seen a lot of Godzilla movies. I don't think that I've ever sat down and watched a Godzilla movie like on purpose and intentionally before watching this one, to tell you the truth. Um,
Okay, so
yeah,
that'll make this discussion kind of interesting.
yeah, I've never really been super like it's nothing I'm against it. I just never have watched a lot of it. Um, However, this movie, Godzilla minus one, was not what I expected at
Yeah,
all.
so okay. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about that before you tell me
Okay,
why.
you go
And
first. You go
I
first. Go
think
right
I
ahead.
know why this isn't what you were expecting. So typically with these kaiju movies, especially Godzilla, they're known for, and this especially applies if you've seen like American versions, like there's one with Bryan Cranston, and there's like a
Oh,
lot
I
of
might have
like,
seen some of that one. That was more recent, right?
yeah, that was I think late 2010s. But yeah, so a lot of those movies have just been kind of silly, like, oh, Godzilla's destroying the city and going on a rampage, and we don't know why, and we have to fight him. Like, that's typically what the movies have been boiled down to. But there's always been kind of underlying messages, particularly in the Japanese ones. Like, some of them are more, have an environmentalist message. This one is the most explicitly anti-war Godzilla movie that I have seen.
Yeah.
And this is also one of the Godzilla movies I've seen that kind of focuses more on the human element more. Usually, and I'm about to get into like a tirade about genres, but usually what separates like an action movie or a horror or a sci-fi, the same amount of people are being killed, but usually what makes it horror is you don't pay attention to the people that are being killed. It allows you
Mm.
to detach and kind of enjoy the destruction. So typically we would be rooting for Godzilla, like, hell yeah, he's destroying these buildings, he's
Mhm,
doing this, he's
mhm.
doing that. We love seeing it. In this movie, they kind of focused on the human. There were parts that I was watching where I'm like forgetting that it's a Godzilla movie. It just feels like
Right.
a war movie. And we're seeing the devastation that it's causing this one man, particularly with his family. And you're at the point where, like, wow, this is, and like I said, it's less about Godzilla and more about the devastation of war, more about what
Yeah.
particularly the United States has done to this country and to these people. And
Right.
so it's interesting to use Godzilla as a metaphor for war and that devastation and destruction. I
Um,
hadn't seen it done that explicitly and that well before. So that's one of the reasons why I think everyone should watch this movie.
is that where Godzilla kind of came from? Was Godzilla created like before or after like the bombs like and stuff? Probably after, right? Is that like a response kind of?
Um,
Because he's a metaphor often for that kind of stuff. Um, I think maybe I don't know.
yeah. So it's not always war. Sometimes it's things where it's like, because the first Godzilla movie came out in the 50s.
Okay, yeah,
So
that's what I was trying to. Yeah, that's what I meant.
yeah,
I just didn't ask clearly as I was. So
yeah,
50s. So so yes, after World War
yeah.
II. Yeah.
Yeah, it was after World
But
War II. It was the mid 50s.
yeah, so
So
you could say that this movie is kind of like a spiritual successor, or a sequel to Oppenheimer.
in a way, actually, it is.
Right. But yeah, I was blown away with how good this movie was, and particularly like you said, the human elements of it. It's a story about like trauma and PTSD from war
Yeah,
and shame and like what this feeling of like you're born with this sort of like duty, and it's like it's and having this guilt and not fulfilling it and all this stuff, or perceiving that you don't fulfill it, you know? And even in like this time of when they're just trying to survive, this guy's still like incredibly hard on himself and stuff. It's yeah, it really blew me away, with how good of a movie it was. Like you said, aside from even all the Godzilla stuff, it's just like a good movie.
yeah. It's a
And
really good war movie. It's just the writing is amazing.
yeah, so a couple thoughts I wanted to say real quick. And uh man, everybody, there's so many good-looking people in this movie too. Like, so my favorite is the doctor, the scientist. He has the best hair I've ever seen in my entire life. Just the scientist,
Oh,
I
his
can't
hair is
remember his
amazing.
name.
Yeah,
Uh is it Noda? Is that his name? Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. His hair is perfect in this movie. He's got this side part with the curls, and he's just he's so cute. I have a big crush on the doctor or the scientist. Um, and yeah, it's just all the acting in a movie is like so good. Um, yeah, so I'll say this is, so it just came out on Netflix, right?
Oh.
And I turn it on, and the default setting that it started playing in was the English dub
Mm-hmm.
version. And so I made it about 3, 4 minutes in, and I'm like, wait, is this how it was released in theaters? I'm like
No.
questioning. I found this answer in the course of those like 4 minutes, but basically I got like a few minutes in, and I was like, no, I gotta pause this. And then I looked it up, and I was like, okay, yeah, that's what I thought. It was released in theaters in Japanese, which is how I wanted to. So I started it over and watched it in Japanese with the English
Mhm.
subtitles. Did
So
you?
a lot of the people that I know who've seen the movie have a similar experience where they didn't hear a lot about it before it came out when it was in theaters. It was just like someone told them this Godzilla movie is actually really good. You need to go watch it, regardless of how
And it
big of a
wasn't playing
Godzilla fan you
everywhere at first, right?
are. I'm actually not sure because, like I said, I didn't hear about it. I caught it like
Oh,
the last week in theaters,
I
and so
see.
I think the issue is the whoever, I don't know what production company distributed it, but I think the issue is because it was in Japanese, they thought a lot of people wouldn't go see it in the theater.
I
So what
see.
ended up happening is at the end of its run, it had gotten so many just like glowing reviews that people like at the last minute, the last week it was in theaters, all went out and watched it. And so they re-released it in black and white in theaters a few months after it ended its original run.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So it's called Godzilla Minus One Minus Color, and that version will also be on Netflix within a couple months.
I see. Interesting. When you watched it again in on Netflix, did you watch the Japanese or the dubbed? Have you watched the dub?
No, I haven't seen the dub yet. I've only seen the Japanese.
I did happen to read online while I was trying to figure this out that people say that as far as dubs go, it's not the worst one. They were like pleasantly surprised with it, but even in the first few minutes, I could already tell it wasn't right. Well, I got as
Yeah,
far as so I could tell you the exact moment I stopped, and I was like, uh, the moment that when he said Godzilla. I heard the word Godzilla and I was like, I'm just not feeling it. I need to go to the Japanese. And then I
yeah.
rewatched it, and then when he says Godzilla for the first time, it hits. And I was like, yep, okay, now we're talking.
Yeah, I'm not one of those because I watch a lot of anime, and I'm not one of
Yeah,
those like anime fans who is like, oh, I have to watch it in Japanese.
right,
Because generally, like, I don't speak Japanese, so I'm not like that. Because people will say, oh, the Japanese acting is better. And I don't know enough about the nuances of the Japanese language to generally say that the acting is always better.
right,
But I think the acting was so good in this movie that I just wouldn't want to hear anyone but the original cast.
right. Um, I think I was thinking about this, and it was like my thought is that I'm more with like cartoons or anime or whatever. I don't care if it's dubbed. I don't necessarily want to watch
Yeah,
a whole cartoon with subtitles, but with live
yeah,
action, when you could see the actor right there, it's nice to be able to hear the words that are coming out of their mouth, like with the way that they intended, you know.
yeah, for sure.
I might if I were to rewatch this, I might watch the dub just to see, but I would for sure wanted to watch it the first way that way.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm definitely curious to see the dub. I have to watch it at some point.
yeah. So, um, I have another a thing to say real quick about this. Is so in
Okay.
addition to being a sequel to Oppenheimer, this
Uh,
movie is also a spiritual prequel or spin-off or origin story to an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm.
okay,
You know what I'm talking about?
I do, but I'll let you say it.
So there's an episode in one of the earlier seasons of Curb Your Enthusiasm where Larry David, like the whole thing in the show is he always gets himself in trouble with his big mouth. He meets someone that's a veteran, a Japanese veteran of the war, and they were a former kamikaze pilot. And when they say that to Larry David, he says, "Oh, you're kamikaze. Like, if you, I thought you were supposed to. All kamikaze means you're supposed to die. Like you're." And he asks about that, and then it becomes this whole big episode, all about that. I haven't seen that episode in a while, but I do know that it's like I'm pretty sure it ends with um, the veteran, like the Japanese veteran in his wheelchair kamikazeing at Larry David in a nursing home or something similar to that.
Yeah.
And yeah. Um, and I couldn't help it. But the whole time I'm watching this movie, I was picturing that. Like I'm like, this is a Larry David bit, but it's like this is the real version of it. And that's just fascinating. That part's fascinating to me. But yeah,
Yeah, the survivor's guilt, and then everyone blaming the main character for
yeah,
Godzilla killing their relatives. Yeah, like you said, it's a lot of PTSD, a lot of trauma. It's a really great story.
yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna
That
cry a
from the
few times in
opening
the theater.
scene.
Never thought I'd cry watching a Godzilla movie.
I know, right? It's so good. And it's like, um, yeah, and all this stuff with the family dynamic is beautiful. I mean, it's great. The
And
movie is
like
it's so good.
the
I wasn't
girl that
not
they basically
expecting it at
got.
all.
Yeah. Yeah, the love story, the little girl that they practically adopt, all of it. It was just like I have never cared this much about human characters in Godzilla. Like
Yeah,
when something happened to the woman at one point, I was like, I had my fingers crossed. I was like, please don't kill her off.
right. And
But then
they're
I get happily
all
ever
like
after.
strangers like to each other like not to spoil stuff, but like they don't like well there's I think maybe the one character is related to the one other person, but in general they've all just met each other. They only know each other post war in the survival
Yeah,
times, and so it's like they don't know, I don't know you from Steve, or whatever the expression is, but they're willing to come together and like do what it takes, like, what, like for the baby or for for the whole thing. It's yeah, just
Yeah,
helping each other because it's the right thing to do.
yeah. I usually don't like little kids in these type of movies, but just
You
the
kid.
way they came together and raised the baby as like this family unit where there's no romantic situation between them at the time. And they're just like
Right.
a kid together, just in the devastation of war. They all lost their families and they just come together. It was
Hmm.
beautiful.
And the like the slow burn of their relationship is really good. I
Yeah.
because I'm um like there's a time like partway in the beginning, or not beginning, sort of like the first act middle, where I'm just like, just kiss her already. Like you should, this is you got the, like, because they're just existing platonically
Yeah,
for
for
some
years.
long extended years, and the kids and I'm like, that's the one of the first questions in my head is, I'm like, are they banging yet? Like what's going on here?
Yeah,
And then I'm like, wait, they're really not banging yet.
yeah, because
And then I'm just like,
it was like what, from when the kid was a baby to when she had to be like 5 or 6. It took them
yeah.
like that long to realize. And that's a very interesting dynamic that I would, obviously you only have so much time in a movie and people mostly want to see Godzilla, but like just how they work that out, just being this family unit of, like I said, no
Yeah.
romance between them, and they're raising this kid together that is related to neither one of them.
Yeah, and I think we'll get to see Godzilla -2 at some point. What do you think? We may see more from these characters.
I don't know. I kind of like how they left it off, and I don't know, because what else is there to explore with them? I feel
I don't
like
know.
in order for there to be more stakes, they'd have to either kill off the girl or the child, which I wouldn't
Yeah,
want to see that. I like the happy
no.
ending.
Yeah, they couldn't do it the same, capture the same emotions that this first one did. But I'm sure there's going to be another one. That's
Oh
just
yeah.
like, there's always a Godzilla movie coming out, and when one's good and successful, usually they do a sequel, just like with any of the major properties or whatever.
Well, the next Godzilla movie that's coming out is Godzilla and Kong. So it's going to be a
Oh, I
completely
see.
different thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Which
maybe
that one, after seeing Minus One, I'm not as excited for. I think what they did was they released Minus One in the US just kind of as like a small thing. So like the hardcore Godzilla heads could like get excited for Godzilla and Kong, since the
right.
last one wasn't very good. But I think this one turned out to be so good that it's just going to overshadow the other one.
Yeah, because it'll be like, because this is like not just a genre, this is like a good movie, regardless of if it's
Yeah.
Godzilla or a genre or whatever. It's just a solid movie. Great
Yeah,
film.
Godzilla, the character is barely in it. There's so much more focus on the humans and this, like the
Hmm.
dialogue, the story, everything, like the commentary on war, the criticism of the United States, all of it is perfect.
Right. So you're a Zilla head. Is that what you guys call yourselves, right?
Not really.
No. So
I don't really know what Godzilla fans are called.
as a Zilla head, I have some questions. So like, is Godzilla, is that always how he gets its power? Like, is he always um like Pokemon evolving, basically? Like getting
Um,
bigger and stuff, or
I think it depends. And like usually this is how it goes with horror and sci-fi. With most genre films, they reflect what's going on in society. So
mm,
if it's wartime or a time where people are scared of war happening, that's when Godzilla storyline is more focused on, oh, there was a nuclear war and this happened and this happened. If like in if the environment is a hot button issue, then it's like toxic waste and pollution in the
right,
ocean is
that's
what.
what's caused him to
Yeah.
become, right?
Yep.
And but I guess what just more specific to this, is he always like start out where he's like small, and then by the end of it, he's like building stomping, or sometimes is he just building stomping all the time, like size wise?
No, he's always big. He like just comes out
Yeah,
the ocean big and is like destroying everything and then goes back. That's typically how
yeah,
it is.
yeah. Gotcha. And I was just thinking about it. Like Power Rangers is very kaiju based too, right? Like they always have those big fights, and it's like very similar. It's like inspired from Godzilla, I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
see.
there's Kaiju in Power Rangers for sure.
Yeah, that's like it. Just making just like the yeah. Um, no, I really like this movie, and I recommend anybody out there to go watch it, even if you don't like Godzilla, if you don't like um monster movies or horror movies or even action movies that much. This is like it's a beautiful like romance movie, character study, thing about trauma and mental illness and war, like you said. And I can't recommend watching it enough. And I'm glad that I'm grateful that you're like a big Godzilla head, or else I never would have seen this. I probably wouldn't have watched it for a while.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
the last thing I'll say about this is I remember when we had our Oscars discussion, and I was like, I'm so glad Godzilla won just any
that's
award.
right.
It could have been nominated for Best Picture. And this is
Yeah, it
like
could have been.
this is one of the examples I like to talk about when I say science fiction and horror and just genre films are so disrespected at the Oscars because this
Yeah.
movie, I think, had much better writing, a much better story than half of the Best Picture nominees this year.
I'd heard some people say that same thing when this movie came out, like oh, it could be maybe even been you that it could be nominated for Best Picture, and I'm like, all right, like sure, Godzilla, like that's like when I am like every Spider-Man movie should be Best Picture or Rocky. It's like fanboy based, right? But then I seen this movie, and I'm like, no, you're legitimately right. This is a Best Picture movie, like
Yeah.
it is, like for sure. Um, more than just a special effects movie, which it did get, or was it special effects, right?
Yeah, it won for
Oh,
special effects,
that's
I
the thing
think. But
I did see. So about that is so the director, the writer director was also the special effects guy. The special not that's
oh,
not
I
your
didn't know that.
the special effects lead. So he got the Oscar.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't
Yeah.
know it was him. That makes me feel a little
Yeah.
bit better. But
Yeah,
they
because it's for
definitely could have
visual
got
effects,
some
yeah.
acting nominations for that. They definitely could have got Best
Oh, for
Picture.
sure. Like in a just world that the doctor he's getting like supporting actor nomination like it's like it's a yeah other than the biases of genre and like existing IP, there's like no reason how why anybody could watch this movie and not think that it does it like that it should be not like excluded from like prestigious cinema conversations or something like awards, you know. Um,
Yep. It's the bias of people hear Godzilla, they think it's a stupid monster movie and they're not paying attention to the story and how beautiful it is. This is a very well done movie. And I think years from now, it'll be talked about as one of the best from this era.
yeah, I am. Yeah. Is there any other Godzilla movies that are like this?
Not really. I would say the ones in the 50s and 60s are they cover similar themes, but they're not as I wouldn't say they're as well done, but those would be the ones I recommend. Not any of the 2000s or 90s, just the ones from like the 50s and 60s.
Yeah, I feel like everything that's come out in my lifetime has been kind of, well, at least in my like conscious life, has been kind of crap, right? Not the strongest or most well loved entries in the Godzilla franchise.
They are, but they're definitely just more like monster of the week. It's like, oh, Godzilla versus
Gotcha.
Mothra, who is a giant moth, or Godzilla
Uh,
versus Mecha Godzilla. Like that's the type of stuff you get, which is not going to be a lot of social commentary or story
it
driven.
is King Kong considered a kaiju?
I guess King Kong would be an American kaiju.
I see. Yeah. Because did you say the next movie is Kong versus Godzilla?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think there was already one previous Kong and Godzilla movie. This is
Yeah,
the
I feel like
second
I've heard
one.
of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I haven't seen the other one. I didn't really have a huge interest, but I'll probably end up checking them both out.
Nice. I mean, I still probably won't, but if there's another Godzilla movie like this, I'll watch it for sure. I want
Yeah,
to.
I'll let you know next time I see one.
Yeah, I'll look into that director more. I have it right here. His name is Takashi Yamazaki.
Yep.
Yep. And he's probably directed some other movies that I should probably look into and stuff too, right?
Yeah, I definitely want to check out his filmography.
Yeah, and then keep my eyes open for whatever he does next after this. Because after making this movie, which was like successful and stuff on a small budget, he'll probably actually get like he'll probably have be doing a big movie after this, you know? Who
Oh
knows?
yeah.
A bigger budget and stuff. Because I think this was
I think
pretty low budget too, right?
yeah, it was. I think he's gonna have a similar trajectory to Bong Joon-ho, who directed Parasite.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be this thing where there's this like big exposure of Asian directors that are
I
making
see.
American movies.
So basically, I could see he needs to make like not needs to, but it make uh his next movie like if he had made this if his next movie is as good as Godzilla Minus One, but without the intellectual property bias going on, if it was just like made that movie separate from the thing, then he'll be nominated for all the awards. You know, so it's like his if his next one isn't like a property or
And
a
he could
genre
definitely
film.
do it. Because, like I said, the star of this movie was the human characters, not Godzilla. I barely cared about Godzilla.
And it looked beautiful. Like the costumes, the set, like everything is just like really great on it. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, well executed visually, the effects, the script was great, the acting, everything. Yeah. So yeah, do you have any more thoughts on Godzilla?
Nope, just everyone watch it. And if it ever gets re-released in theaters, which I feel like it might, honestly, definitely go see it in the theater.
Yeah, they might do that. I might if they release it in theaters. Yeah. But yeah, so I think we could maybe move on then. We don't
Yeah.
have too much time before we go on break, but I had another topic I want to talk about, but can kind of do it briefly. So, in addition to watching Godzilla, I've spent a lot of my time recently watching the WNBA basketball as well as movies and TV shows about playing basketball. In particular, I just started watching the new show Clipped. Have you heard about Clipped at all?
I have heard of it. I've seen like the first 10 minutes of the first episode, but what are
Yeah.
your thoughts on it so far?
So it's interesting. So for those who don't know, Clipped is like a true story of Donald Sterling, the owner of the Los Angeles Clippers, from recently in a scandal where he's exposed as being racist and just he's an awful guy. And it's like a love triangle with his mistress and his wife, who's also the co-owner of the Clippers. Um, and it's really interesting. Ed O'Neill plays Donald Sterling, and it's kind of like uh, it's like the winning time but losing time almost, you know? Because instead of about the Lakers, it's about the Clippers, and I'm really curious to see. I don't know the whole story. I just know that he's a piece of shit, and I want to see kind of how it develops. But it's pretty interesting, at least so far, to me. Like Lawrence Fishburne plays Doc Rivers, and he's really great. And yeah, so yeah, and there was something else I wanted to talk about that, but I can't remember what it was. Um, yeah, but um, it's interesting because it's only just came out. There's only been like 2 episodes. I want to see more of how that progresses. But I guess r- real quick before we go on break, and then we come back and talk about our top three bad movies that are so bad they're good. Have you watched any or seen any or heard about any of the things that have been happening in the WNBA this season?
Um, Not really. I haven't really been watching any of the games. I know
Nice.
Angel Reese is doing good. That's all I care about.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, there's been like a whole lot of hoopla recently with Angel because Angel Reese's team, the Chicago Sky, played Caitlin Clark's team, the Indiana Fever, for the first time this season.
Oh,
And oh, so you haven't heard this then. So it was a real
oh,
physical game, and there's this player, Caitlin, or what's her name? Kennedy Carter, who's Angel Reese's teammate, and she was guarding Caitlin Clark, and things were getting like physical a lot, like a lot of shoving. And then after Kennedy Carter scored a basket, she shoulder checks Caitlin Clark onto the ground, and she gets called for a foul. And the entire white sports media world, you would think that this woman just assassinated the president because she did a flagrant foul on Caitlin Clark. Um, and yeah, and it's been really interesting, and it's just we've talked about it a lot before with some of the other issues we talked about with the Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark and the basketball and the way in which there's like these hard racial lines that people have decided to draw when it comes to which young women's basketball player they like, or mostly
mm,
just like Caitlin Clark and their like racial lines where it's like this has become a fighting ground in the culture war for them, where they're like Caitlin Clark is like a surrogate for their whiteness or whatever. They're
yeah.
putting this on her unintent, like without like her wanting that, but
It's very unfair to her, and I.
and it's unfair to all the players in the league because
Oh,
it's all anybody wants to talk about is these like the Caitlin Clark got shoulder bump. Shit happens, you know. It was a dirty foul. Got called for a
mm,
dirty foul. That happens. I mean, I've pushed people playing sports. It happens, you know.
yeah.
Uh, but it'll just be interesting to see. Last thing I was saying that is that because coming up soon, they're going to be going on break for the Olympics, so we're going to see a
Mm,
whole different dynamic shift where we're going to be hopefully rooting for everybody. You'll be rooting for everyone on like the same team kind of thing. But yeah, I could talk about basketball forever, but I'm not going to. But I think we should just that's all I really wanted to say, and then we could go on break. Oh, and one more thing, quick, I wanted to say about basketball before we go on break is I watched this movie Hustle, the Adam Sandler basketball movie. Have you ever seen it?
no, I haven't.
So it's it's interesting. It's very kind of related to this to me in a way, and that's why I wanted to make sure I bring it up here real quick because it's basically Adam Sandler plays an NBA basketball scout, and he finds this like unknown talent on like in a playing street ball in Spain, and tries to get him into the NBA or whatever. And it's like it's a good story. It's like a good movie or whatever. I like it. The basketball is cool. But it's essentially it reminded me of the Caitlin Clark stuff that we're talking about so much because he's it's it's this problematic Great White Hope storyline because like it's a white guy from Spain that he's got when you know, and it's like they have this there's this like narrative that there's reverse racism like in basketball or something, you know, and I just wanted to bring that up because it's worth watching though. The movie is cool. It's like the opposite of Winning Time or of Clipped, where Clipped is um fictional actors playing real people, like real basketball players. This has real basketball players playing fictional characters. And the last thing I'll say on it is that the guy the basketball player, I'd never heard of him, who plays the main guy in the movie. His name is Juancho Hernan Gomez, I believe. I don't think he's still in the NBA, but the movie is worth seeing just because this man is very hot. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say.
You got my
So, yeah, like I am an equal opportunity basketball player thirster. You know, I watch the WNBA and I'm watching that, and I think they're all hot, and I enjoy watching them play basketball. But we got to go to break, and so that's that, and we'll be back shortly. Sound good?
Yep, sounds good.
You know, I'm something of a podcast myself. I'm something of a podcast myself.
All right. Welcome back from break. Did you have a nice break, Kai?
I did. I just put my laundry away. Well, started to, but
Nice.
being productive. How about you?
It's all right. I smoked a cigarette and just kicked myself in the ass for forgetting to tell you that Adam Sandler's wife in that basketball movie is Queen Latifah.
Oh, that should have been what you led with.
Correct. Yeah, okay. But that's all I have to say about that. And we're here for the second half, which we're going to do our top three, which this is which we do all the time. This is a topic that you suggested. So do you want to go ahead and describe what it is?
Yep. So I always end up picking topics that are hard for me to pick three. I don't know why I do this to myself, but the topic for this week is movies that are so bad that they're good. Now, since you asked me this last night, I'll have to make the distinction here that we're not talking about movies that have been poorly reviewed but are actually good, or movies that people don't like but you like. It's like a movie that's genuinely, you can't defend it, you know it's bad, you know there's nothing redeeming about this movie, but it's still entertaining.
Right. And it's the bad parts of it make it are part of the charm. Like it's
Yes.
it's not that it's like misunderstood, like because there's plenty of movies that people say are bad movies. Like when I was looking up the lists of the worst movies of all time, there's plenty of movies on there that I think are really good, but I don't think would be the right for this topic because it's a
No,
movie that I
these are
think is
movies
bad, but I love it anyways.
yes.
Okay, cool. So do you want to start then? Or do you want me to start?
um you can start.
Okay. Um, let me see. Okay, I guess I'll do it in this order. So, I know you said it can have no redeeming qualities. Well, this one, it has some redeeming qualities, but it is a very bad movie. I know that it's bad. I have always known that it was bad, and I've always enjoyed the things that were really bad about it were always my favorite parts of it. And at one time, it was my favorite movie. And I don't know if you've heard of or seen this or even heard of this movie, but I'm
Okay.
talking about the 1997 movie called Prefontaine, starring Jared
No,
Leto.
I actually have not heard of it, surprisingly.
So it's a biopic about Steve Prefontaine. Do you know who that is? The track and field guy?
No.
Okay, so Steve Prefontaine is this like track and field guy from the 70s. He's basically the first Nike athlete. He's from Oregon, and his coach is the one that like founded Nike, Bill Bowerman, and that's why Nike is in Oregon. And he was like sort of this like kind of bad boy of track and field. He was like a distance runner who was like kind of like a edgy younger guy, you know, just like had long hair and a mustache, and it's like, you know, the 70s or whatever kind of thing, right? Well, I used to be big into track and field, and so they made two movies about this guy in the same year. And they both, one came out, and one's called Prefontaine, and one's called Without Limits. Without Limits stars Billy Crudup, and is actually a pretty decent movie. However, Prefontaine starring a young Jared Leto in 1997, is terrible, and I love it. Absolutely love it. For a million reasons. Like, in the so bad it's good category, I'll tell you, like, everybody in it somehow manages to deliver a terrible performance. One of my favorite scenes is in the beginning. It's showing him as a teenage, like a youngster, and they're showing how he's such like a daring guy. That's kind of supposed to be his thing. Is he doesn't play by the rules kind of guy, but a track and field rebel, right? But so as a kid, he's on a bridge and he like jumps off the bridge into the water in front of all the other kids that were afraid to do it, and it clearly cuts to a grown man stunt double who's like 3 times his size jumping into the water. Um, and this movie has actually an all-star cast. The head coach of his team is the guy who founds Nike, Bill Bowerman. It's played by R. Lee Ermey, who's like the drill sergeant from Full Metal Jacket and like the football coach in Saving Silverman. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, that little army guy, right? And then his assistant coach is Ed O'Neill, the same guy we were talking about earlier from Modern Family, Married with Children, and now Clipped. And his teammate is Breckin Meyer from Clueless and a bunch of other movies, if you're familiar with Breckin Meyer. And his girlfriend is played by Amy Locane, who is one of my favorite underrated actresses. She's also the lead in the movie Crybaby, the John Waters movie, when we're talking about bad movies that are bad, that they're good, like John Waters has to be mentioned. So she's like the lead in Crybaby, and then she's also the girlfriend in Airheads. She's Brendan Fraser's girlfriend in that. And then, so if you want to see like really corny, kind of cheesy, inspirational, like track and field movie with like a 70s soundtrack and Jared Leto being like melodramatic. This was before I knew like all about Jared Leto. And have a drill sergeant for some reason play the coach just in himself. Watch this movie.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's terrible, and it doesn't. It's you know how there was like this thing that happens all the time when 2 movies come out at the same time that are the same thing. Like,
yeah,
it's one of those cases where, well, I'll get more into that later. But yeah, so I'm not sure. It's not the perfect choice for what the topic is, but it is a very, very bad movie that I like despite it being bad. And in fact, the bad things in it, there's some of the lines in which they say, we used to quote all the time to each other, because we would watch this movie before every track meet when I was in high school, and we would just quote the bad lines all the time. So I think that's why it qualifies.
Yeah, definitely. I would say
Okay,
that's probably the case for all of the movies we're gonna pick. But
cool.
yeah, my first choice, I'm gonna go with something that fits the theme of the show. I gotta go with a comic book movie first. There's quite a few comic book movies I could have chosen, but I am gonna go with Batman and Robin for this one.
Okay.
Mostly for Arnold Schwarzenegger's performance as Mr. Freeze. It
Yeah.
was absolutely terrible. Every line was like such a bad pun, like so grown worthy, so just. But I don't know, it reminded me of like the old school Batman comics or like the old school TV show with Adam West, like that kind of fun, campy vibe instead of the dark, gloomy Batman we're used to now. So it was such a fun movie. I watched it almost every day when I was a kid, and I could probably quote all of his lines. Are you familiar? I know you're not a huge Batman.
Yeah, I do like Batman. So I thought about that movie, but I don't. I realized that's a bad movie that I don't like. I'm sorry. I haven't rewatched it enough for it to like grow on me again, but I remember hating that movie. But I am a Batman Forever apologist. See, but I didn't bring in Batman Forever because I think that is a movie that is good. I don't agree that
Yeah.
it's bad, but I do
No,
think
Batman
that
Forever is good. Batman and Robin is not.
right. But people say that they lump them together often, but no. Batman and Robin has some redeeming qualities. It did also give us Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy.
Yes, another reason why I love this movie.
Mm-hmm. Um, yeah, that's a great choice. It did kind of derail Batman for quite some time, and but also at the same time, without it being so bad that it's good, we wouldn't have gotten the course correction that Batman did, where they came in the complete opposite direction and had to when they got Christopher Nolan to do the Batman Begins and the Dark Knight trilogy. Like that is a response to the response to where Batman became in Batman and Robin, basically.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's kind of why I didn't really like the Christopher Nolan movies at first. I have an appreciation for them now, but at the time I was like, this is not what I want to see.
Yeah, for sure. I get what you mean. It's kind of interesting. It kind of has to happen. It happens like that in a progression, I guess. It's like we had to get Batman and Robin. We had to have Batman and Robin to get to. Uh, yeah, and it cycles like that. I think. That's why we got Robert Pattinson because people were starting to get like complaining that the uh Ben Affleck wasn't good or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
But no, that's a great choice. I do enjoy that movie a lot. I have mixed feelings on it. I enjoy Batman. I enjoy the idea of it, but I haven't sat down to rewatch it in a while. Yeah, that's a good pick. I like that. Um, there's a lot of I thought about bringing it. There's a lot of different superhero movies that could come in. Do you have more than one or just that one?
No, just that one.
Okay, yeah. So there was quite a few other ones I also considered. I thought about that one. Um, I thought about Spider-Man 3, but then that does not fit because that is a movie that I will defend to death. It's not a bad movie. It is a great movie. It is a good movie. It is not so bad it's good. It is a misunderstood one. So I didn't
I
bring in
agree.
that. Yeah, and then, but I guess if I were to have picked a superhero movie, it would be Madam Web, but we already have talked about that so extensively. I think Madam Web would be one of my top three favorite bad movies, so bad that they're good. But we talked about it so much that it's not on my list.
Yeah, that's why I left it off of mine too.
Yeah, that's what I figured. And then the other one would be Catwoman. But
Oh yeah,
I
I considered
yeah,
Catwoman.
yeah, me too. I thought about it. Yeah. Okay, so I'll go
I
on
don't
to
know
my
if I
next
would
pick. Or
consider
go
it
ahead.
so bad that it's good though. Like there are bad movies
It's
that I
just
like,
it's just
but I
bad.
think in order for it to be so bad that it's good, the badness has to be part of its charm. Like I was gonna
Yeah.
add Van Helsing to this, but I don't think that's so bad that it's good. I think it's just a bad movie that I like.
Yeah. See, that's my well, when I get to my third pick, I gotta yeah, we'll get to that. But I gotta yeah, I had a hard time with this topic too of getting like exact like one that's so bad that it is good. I mean, besides from like the obvious ones that are like the main examples of that.
Yeah,
And yeah. But so yeah, should I go into my next pick then?
yeah. Let's go to the next one because we got a
Okay.
lot to.
Yeah, we do. So my oh right, yeah, because I went first. So my second pick is similar in fact
Okay.
to the pick that my first pick, which
Okay.
was the first pick was a Prefontaine track and field movie, and it was a movie where there's two of the same exact movie that were made.
Uh-huh.
This movie I doubt you also have heard of. It was a direct to TV movie in 2002 called Second String. It is. Yeah, are you familiar with the movie The Replacements with Keanu
Yeah.
Reeves? It's
Yep.
that script, that exact movie, but made for TV
Uh-huh.
and starring the Buffalo Bills, and they
Oh.
win the Super Bowl.
Oh.
It is
I've
one of the
never heard
worst
of it.
movies ever made. It's called Second String. John Voight is the coach. It aired on TNT. It's like kind of a cult classic amongst Bills fans. It's like people have passed it around for a while.
Uh-huh.
Um, and it is horrible, absolutely horrible. So like just to start it off, like the whole concept is that the Bills team get injured and then like a food poisoning or whatever. They don't have to be scabs like in the replacements or whatever. It's like food poisoning. So he has to come step up. And they have real life Doug Flutie in the movie. Like in the beginning, he's like in
Oh.
a hospital gown or whatever or something.
Mhm.
The only problem is this movie came out in 2002. From when they filmed it to when it came out, the Bills benched and cut Doug Flutie and pissed everybody off and started Rob Johnson. I don't know if you're old enough to remember that. It was a very big deal. We had Doug
Yeah.
Flutie and everyone wanted to stick with Doug Flutie, and then they got rid of him and put in this stinker Rob Johnson. So then out
Uh-huh.
comes this movie just to rub it in our face that Doug Flutie was the quarterback. So it's like it's yeah, it's so wild. And but they also have like actual Bills like tailgate people, like the Pinto Ron guy is in the movie and stuff at the tailgate, and there's other players, but it's the worst sports movie I've ever seen. It's literally it just is the replacements movie, and it in fact came about the same way where like, they both started as the same script, and that's how this happens in Hollywood all the time. Is that they start with one script and it splits into two, and that's this movie, and it is yeah, one of the worst movies, but it's we used to watch it like all the time before Bills games. But every line is bad. The football in it's really bad. It cuts. That's the best part. Is it does mix in some other football footage into the footage, and it doesn't match. So you like see the player that'll cut to like a tackle, and it's like the guy who's playing the quarterback's like this 5'2" guy, and then there'll be like a 6 foot something stunt double. It's the football's horrible, the acting's horrible. John Voight is terrible in it, and then there's just random cameos. But it's so bad it's good because it's the only time, at least up until this point, we'll ever get to see the Buffalo Bills win the Super Bowl. So, but I digress. Yeah, so you haven't heard of or seen that. Any thoughts on that? Slash, what is your next pick?
No, I've never seen it, but I'm gonna have to watch it. That sounds very interesting. It sounds very bad, but
Yeah, he's like a guy that gets pulled up off. He's like a car salesman, a used car salesman or something, and then he's like ends up becoming the only guy who can play quarterback because everyone's sick. You know, like replacement or whatever. Just off the streets. It's so bad.
no, that's amazing. All right. My next pick is more of a traditional like type of movie that you would think of with the so bad it's good genre.
Okay.
So my next movie is the Velocipaster. Have you seen it?
I very much was hoping that you would maybe mention that. I've seen footage of it, but not the whole movie, but I am intimately familiar with it. But I'll let you go ahead. I could tell you my anecdotes after.
All right. So this movie is about this priest whose parents dies. So he kind of is sad and drives somehow from the US to China. And when he's there, he gets this ability to turn into a dinosaur. So obviously he's like freaked out by it at first, but then he ends up obviously using the ability to fight crime. I don't think there's much else that I need to say there. It's a preacher who turns into a dinosaur and
Oh
fights.
my God. Yeah.
There's no
So
way that movie could be good, but it's it's great to watch with people who have never heard of it,
yeah,
especially if there's drinking involved.
it's like became quite a it's like a cult phenomenon. It like became really like popular, right? Or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah. Where did you watch it? Did you see it? It wasn't in theaters, it was on like an app or something?
I'm not sure if it was ever in theaters, but I watched it on Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime. Okay. Um, so do you know much about like the story, like the making of this movie, where it's like the guy who made it and stuff? It started as like a short project, and it's like took years to actually get it made and stuff.
No, I don't really know much about the
Yeah,
making.
right. Well, I'm just saying that. And, well, the reason I know that is because so I have it right here. It was first released on streaming in August 2019 is when it first became available, right?
Yep.
Well, I was at San Diego Comic-Con in the beginning of July that year, a month before that, and I was sitting at a bar with my friend, and we were just talking to this guy, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm here to debut or to screen my movie, Velocipaster." So I heard
Nice.
about it from this guy. Like I met the guy who was there, and he was like really green. He was so excited, and he was like he genuinely loved like what he was doing. It was like it was like you could tell he was very like it was just cool. He was like just about to blow up because he knew it was happening. He had a screening there at Comic Con that was sold out, and it was like later that night. It was like I met him like hours before he just catapulted to the next level, and then the movie just like started going out and then getting streaming, and then I've watched it from afar. Just like people talk about it all the time. I see it on different lists, and I see they made a sequel or are making a sequel. And I haven't talked to him or ever seen the guy ever since, but I just randomly at Comic Con in San Diego was at a bar and met the guy right before the movie came out. And I was like, oh yeah, I didn't think anything of it. People plug their movies all the time, right? But it sounded pretty like interesting, and I was wondering. I didn't think that I would ever hear of it again. And then, sure enough, yeah, it's everywhere. So it's just kind of a, you know,
Yeah,
just a
that's really
anecdote.
cool.
Yeah.
It's
Um,
one of those movies where I don't really think he made it bad on purpose, but he definitely did not care about it being good, which is what I appreciate about it. Like, I love movies that are just made just for the fun of, like, hey, I want to make a movie about a fucking dinosaur ripping people to shreds. That's fun. That's cool. And people will want to watch it. So that's what I appreciate about the movie. It's just fun. And I have to
yeah.
give an honorable mention before we finish to Trauma Films. I don't know if you've seen
Yep.
any of their movies,
Mhm.
but I feel like their whole collection has that vibe that I'm talking about, where it's not necessarily made bad on purpose, but they don't care about like having a good story or good acting. They just want to make a fun movie, or they just want like gross out. They want gore. Like, so a lot of the horror movies I watch would qualify for this, but I kind of wanted to leave that out because that's too
Mhm.
easy. But like movies
Yeah.
like Toxic Avenger,
Okay.
Tromeo and Juliet, like,
Right. Lloyd Kaufman movies is a
yeah,
yeah. That's a Trauma
yeah,
Films.
trauma.
Yep. And so I'm gonna do the same thing I just said about the last one. Not the same thing, but the same very neat um uh anecdote to say about that, which is I've never actually seen any trauma films, but my roommate for several years like worked for Trauma for like 10 years and made a bunch of these movies and stuff. He filmed some of our more recent films. So shout out
That's
to my
awesome.
homie Tyler Bradbury. I'm not sure if he still works with Lloyd, but he worked him and Coffin were like buddies. He was like big in with the Trauma people forever. And I'll just add an anecdote. I know there's like crossover in that sort of crowded scene, and the like Eric Andre Adult Swim sort of absurdist humor people too. It's like it's an intermixed world, which is makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And this is the one time I get to kind of name drop as well. But Lloyd
Hmm.
Kaufman used to follow me on Twitter before I deleted my Twitter.
Oh, nice. Yeah, Lloyd Kaufman. That's cool. That is a good that's a good anecdote there. I like that. Hell yeah. Um, oh wait, so is it that was your second one, right?
Yep,
And no, that
Velocipaster
was
was
your
my
honorable
second.
mentions. Yeah, right. And then okay, so then it's my turn for the last one. I
Yeah.
see. Okay, so I've really been struggling with trying to pick what I want as the to pick um as my third and final choice, and it is in part because I of wanting to understand the exact parameters of what it was, right? Because uh like there's plenty of movies that I'm like that people say were bad, right? And I think are good. And a lot of those movies would be comedies, like Happy Madison movies, for example, a lot of Adam Sandler movies, or one of my all-time favorite movies is Joe Dirt, but I wouldn't classify that as like a so bad it's good. I think it's it's good.
Right.
However, in the um, Happy Madison catalog, there is some movies that I would say two at least three movies that are so bad that they are good potentially, right? That's so I'm gonna pick one, but I think most people like the obvious choice for that would be Jack and Jill. That's a that Adam Sandler movie replays himself as his sister in drag
Yeah.
and has Al Pacino in it. I think that is a terrible movie. It's one of the only like Adam Sandler movies I can't rewatch. It just makes me sick. It's a terrible movie. So I
Yeah,
don't
that
count
movie
that
was
one,
awful.
right? And then I think that it's debatable between two other movies of his that could be so bad that they are good. Um, and that's a ridiculous six, and that's my boy. So
Okay.
ridiculous six is I would say okay, you know, um, that one I do think is so bad it's good, but a lot of people think it's just bad. And but that's my boy might just be bad and I like it after you've clarified it. That's originally what was going to be my third pick, and I was going to say Ridiculous Six as an honorable mention. But after talking to you more, I just think That's My Boy is a bad movie, and I still find it entertaining. Have you seen this one?
No, I wanted to check it
Oh
out.
my God. So That's My Boy is Adam Sandler's like first. Okay, that's going to be my choice then. I'm going to pick That's My Boy because I want to talk about this. So That's My Boy um, is and okay, I'll be quick. So I'll be really quick. So if you don't
Okay.
know, That's My Boy is like the first Adam Sandler movie that he came out with where it's a R-rated comedy, and we had been sort of like,
Oh.
if you're like a Happy Madison fanboy, kind of like I am, you've been like begging for Sandler to get back to like his prime or whatever because he's been putting out Grown Ups and like this other stuff, which I could have brought in that movie even too. Um, and they're just making these like kind of kid movies. So he's like, okay, we finally get him to come out with a rated R, like gross out comedy, kind of like where he's gonna go for it, right? He makes this movie with
Oh.
Andy Samberg where he decides to have a terrible Boston accent for no reason. That is terrible. And the whole plot of the movie is that he is a 15-year-old kid in high school who has sex with his teacher, who's Susan Sarandon. And it's a movie about statutory rape. Is the whole concept of the movie. He's like a child star. It's horrible. Vanilla Ice is in it. So
Oh.
um, it has and I think it's doing it on purpose because it did everything like there's some of the like worst things you can imagine are in this movie. Milo Ventimiglia, the actor, he's been like This Is Us and a bunch of other stuff.
I love him.
Yeah, he plays a very disturbing character in this, and there's like fucking incest in this movie. There's like literally like brothers and sisters fucking each other. It's an abomination of a movie, but I still think it's funny. But it's so raw. Everything about it is bad. The central theme of the movie is bad. Like it's like perpetuating this very gross thing about like it's cool if you're a boy and you hook up with an adult, but it's an adult. It's like yeah, it's an Adam Sandler gross out comedy about statutory rape and incest. So
Wow. Yeah, I didn't know that Susan Sarandon and Milo Ventimiglia were in this movie.
So
But
the thing that I love about Susan Sarandon though is both her and her daughter are in it, and her daughter plays her in the past, and she plays her in the future, in jail. Like she's in jail the whole movie. At least like there's repercussions for it, you know.
yeah.
But yeah, Susan Sarandon's in it, and yeah, Milo is one of the main characters. James Caan. It's like got a solid cast. It's yeah, but it is terrible movie. Um, and I don't know if that didn't really count. I don't know if that's really quite what the topic is. And so I'll just say, in addition, honorable mention is Con Air. And then you go ahead.
Oh, I love Con Air.
Yeah.
That's like my favorite Nick Cage movie.
Yeah, but I almost think it's a good movie, not a bad movie. So
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I would count the Adam Sandler one before I count Con Air.
yeah,
I don't know
okay. So
what
that's
I
why
should have done.
that's why I haven't been able to pick a third one is because I'm like I
Yeah.
don't know. It was just about whether they fit the topic.
Yeah, what I should have done was like say that it needs to have a IMD, not an IMDb, but like a Rotten Tomato score of less than 50%,
These
probably.
all do for sure. But yeah,
And
but yeah, that's my
I
list. I
don't
know
know
we
if
don't.
Con Air does.
Huh?
I don't know if Con Air would have a rating lower than 50%.
Oh yeah, you're right. It might not. That's true. I don't
Yeah.
know. But some people had I seen online people say it's a so bad it's good movie, but I'm like I don't know. I think that's just a good movie.
I really enjoyed that movie. Like I said, it's my favorite Nick Cage movie.
Yeah,
But
it's
my final movie, I kind of faked you out. So I
okay.
said that Mortal Kombat is not on my list and that I genuinely think it's a good movie. That's all true. I think the Mortal Kombat movie that came out in 1995 is actually a good movie. There's good acting, a good story. It's pretty faithful to the video game. Not only that, but this movie was so good that they changed the storyline in the video games to match the movie. But the sequel, Mortal Kombat Annihilation, that came out in 1997, is
I
god
see.
fucking awful. And it just
Yeah.
completely undid all of the good. Because, like, at the time, there were no good video game movies. And there was a little bit of fighting game movie drama. So originally, Mortal Kombat was going to be based
It's a
around the
trailblazer
actor.
movie. It really
Yeah,
was in that regard. Yeah.
yeah. So originally, it was going to be the video game was going to be based on the actor Jean-Claude Van Damme. So because of Jean-Claude's like drug habits and different things, he ended up not being involved with the game. But then went on to star in the Street Fighter video game movie adaptation, which I think is hilarious.
You could have maybe
And
brought that
now in
one in too.
2024, yeah, now in 2024, Jean-Claude Van Damme is playing the character he was supposed to play in the
Oh
game that just
wow.
came out. So that's just some fun backstory. But the character Jean-Claude Van Damme was supposed to play became Johnny Cage. So Johnny Cage in the first movie had like this great backstory. Like the actor who played him, I forget his name, but he was in General Hospital, I believe, and then just like broke out in this action movie. And, everyone loved the Johnny Cage character. He provided great comic relief. 2 seconds in the Mortal Kombat Annihilation, they kill him off brutally. And it's like, even though these games are not necessarily for kids, there were a lot of children playing the games, watching the movies. And so especially since Johnny Cage is the one white guy in the movie and like all the other characters like Asian.
Oh
So he
yeah.
was like set up as like the main character. So like 2 minutes into this movie, my little brother and I are at the movie theater with our parents. They kill Johnny Cage off, and we're all just like, oh my God, what is happening right now? And I think a lot of people had the same reaction. But looking back, I think that's a hilarious choice.
No, yeah. I remember both of those movies not that well. I definitely saw them, and I might disagree with you on the first one being a good movie, but I also haven't seen them in a long time. But my memory was that they were both bad, but the second one was so bad. I remember it being like this is one of the worst movies. Like the first one, I was sort of like, oh, it's right, it's good or whatever. Like I could tell myself that I liked it when I was a kid, but then this one, no, I knew it was bad.
You probably just don't watch a lot of action movies. I get the feeling. I don't know if you're like big into kung fu movies, but
No,
like the
not really.
general consensus is that the
The
first
first
movie
one
was
is
good.
good. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like the fight choreography, the special effects for the time were actually like groundbreaking. So it's like like if we went by the IMDb rule, it definitely is above 50%.
Okay, for sure.
Yeah, but
That's a good pick, though.
the second one, universally trashed, universally hated. There's nobody that's going to tell you that this was a good movie, but it's so bad that it's comforting to me. You know, it's like one of those movies you put on. You're not like, I enjoy this story. It's like, this is so fucking dumb. I need to laugh at something. So there's one scene in particular that gets roasted a lot where like there's these two characters where the one girl is like the princess that they're all trying to save. And then there's her mother, Queen Sindel. So Sindel was resurrected to be like an evil queen or whatever. So Kitana sees her mother and she goes, Mother, you're alive. And Sindel replies after like a 30-second pause, too bad you will die. It's just like so easy. And just like just that scene alone just brings me so much joy. It's so fucking dumb. It's so bad. Like, why did she hesitate so long before saying you'll die? Like, I thought she was gonna say something profound. And it's like, nope, just too bad.
Sorry, we cut off, but we're back around. We were talking about, you're telling me about Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
Yeah, basically what I'm saying is that this movie just took so many steps backward from the first one in terms of the acting, the fight choreography. Actually, they changed a lot of the actors from the first movie to the second one. And it kind of ties into your last pick because the actress that played Sonya Blade in the first movie was in Billy Madison.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I was picturing her. I was trying to remember who's the. Yeah, that's right. She plays Veronica Vaughn in Billy
Yeah.
Madison, and what she plays Sonya Blade. Do you know her name?
Let me look it up really quick.
I'm
I
looking it
should
up right
know
now
this.
too. Mortal Kombat movie. Not at the video game, not the movie. Games. I guess if you just type in Mortal Kombat to Google, there's better ways to do that. Mortal Kombat movie. Who
Bridget
else is
Wilson.
Bridget Wilson? Yes. Who else is in the Mortal Kombat movie set? Anyone else noteworthy?
Let's see. I guess now I should look up the actor who plays Johnny Cage since I was talking about him.
Oh yeah. When's the last time you've seen Mortal Kombat Annihilation?
Probably last year. I watch it like once a year, maybe
Oh,
once
really?
every other year. Yeah.
So, how many Mortal Kombat movies are there? So there's Mortal Kombat, the first one. Then there was Mortal Kombat Annihilation, which was the sequel in the 90s.
Yep. So those both came out in the 90s. Then there's been a few animated movies that came out that actually have pretty star-studded cast. And then there is the one that came out, I believe, in 2022. And then there's another one coming out either later this year or early next year with Carl
Oh,
playing Johnny Cage.
so your choice for So Bad It's Good, or Mortal Kombat Annihilation, was so bad that they did not make another Mortal Kombat movie for like 25 years. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Like a live
yeah,
action?
pretty much. Pretty much.
Yeah, that's that's a good choice, you know. Just like Batman and Robin, it like sort of, changed the direction of the franchise, in some way.
Exactly. And I think
Um,
Mortal Kombat Annihilation also causes that Mandela effect where everyone thinks that the first movie was much worse than what it was
that's probably
because
what it
the
is.
second one was so bad.
Wait, Joel McHale played Johnny? Oh, in an anime,
That's
I
in the
see.
animated. Yeah.
Got it. I'm like looking at the wrong thing.
No, it was Lyndon Ashby in the first movie. So he was
Oh,
an actor. He was in like a bunch of soap operas, I think.
yeah. And then
And
they changed the actors. Oh, and so
yeah,
Bridget Wilson from Billy Madison was in the good Mortal Kombat, the first
yeah,
one,
he
and
was
they
in the good
replaced
one.
her.
Yeah, so they replaced a lot of the good actors. So then, and they also had playing Raiden. I forget his name.
James
The
Remar,
guy
that's who I
from
was going to talk about. He's who they brought in. James
no,
Remar.
well, yeah, that's but Yeah, I was talking
Oh,
about the
the
first movie.
original, you mean?
Yeah. So
Oh,
in the first movie,
Christopher Lambert, it says.
yeah, they had Christopher Lambert from Highlander
Oh,
playing Raiden. And I think like one of the highlights of the first movie was his portrayal of Raiden. And then when they replaced him, like it was a good replacement, but he just changed the role so much. He played
right.
such a different Raiden that it was kind of jarring that like people almost thought it was a different character. So it was just confusing.
Yeah, it's confusing to me when I saw his name there because I'm like, I know James Remar, well, I know of him, but I'm like, I can't picture him as Raiden.
No. It was like I love him too. The Warriors is one of my favorite movies. Like he's a great
And
actor, but he's just
yeah,
not.
and he's there for Black Lightning all the time.
Yeah.
That's the man in the chair. Uh, but yeah, so I haven't seen either of them. Maybe before the newest uh the next Mortal Kombat movie comes out, maybe I'll have to watch the other three, the first two and the newer one.
Yeah. So in the newer one, there's a new character they created for the movie. He's not in any of the games, but the actor who plays him is fine as hell. So hot.
Okay.
So I am completely with it. All the
What's the
other
character's name?
oh, I forget the character's name.
Is it Cole Tan or Cole
Yeah,
Young?
Cole.
Lewis
Cole
Tan, is that the
Young.
actor?
Yeah, Lewis Tan is the actor. He was on that reality show. Oh, I can't think of what it is, but the show that's like Crazy Rich Asians, but it's a reality show.
Oh,
He's on the newest season of that show, and he plays this new character that they invented just for the movie. All the hardcore Mortal Kombat fans were pissed off, but I'm just like, no, I'm with it. Put him in all the movies.
I see. Is he a character just made up for the movie? He's not in the games, not in
Yeah.
any of the other properties or nothing.
No, he's not in any of the games. And so, like I said, in the first Mortal Kombat movie from '95, that movie was so good, it's so well received that they changed the storyline of the games to match the movie.
Oh, right.
So, in this new movie, this new character has come out. He still
In
has not introduced in the games at all. It's just
I
like
see.
the creators of the games don't even acknowledge it. Also, fun fact, the creators of Mortal Kombat, Ed Boon and John Tobias, are both Dominican. I learned that very recently.
Oh,
I thought they were two
nice.
white men. Yeah.
I see.
So
Um,
shout out to them.
and your um uh hot new Mortal Kombat character, the actor, is also in the new Deadpool and Wolverine movie coming out.
Oh, yes, he is. Yeah.
Because I guess he said he was in the other Deadpool, Deadpool 2. I don't know
Yeah,
if
but I
I,
barely remember that movie.
yeah, I barely remember it as well. But he's a very, yeah, that might get me to watch Mortal Kombat. Uh, if somebody asks me my favorite Mortal Kombat character now, I'm gonna say Cole Young, just to piss him off, right? Or depending
Please
on the
do.
person.
No, that's hilarious. You should definitely do that.
Okay, cool. Uh, yeah, that's a good pick. I knew you'd get Mortal Kombat in there. Um, a lot of video game movies could either be so bad they're good or just straight up bad, unfortunately,
Yeah.
is how it's kind of been over the years. Starting with the first Mario Brothers movie, and then
Oh, yeah. That's a
yeah,
good
and
contender for so bad it's good, honestly. I loved that movie as a
yeah, I
kid.
almost brought that one in. But yeah. And then there's like what's that guy, Yui Bowl or whatever. He makes all those
Oh,
really bad movies that are video game movies.
yeah, he fucking sucks.
Yeah, he's just like a hack. Um, yeah, that's cool. That's yeah. Oh, so that new hot Mortal Kombat character was born 3 days before me.
Oh,
Insane year and everything.
that's awesome. You guys
Yep,
could be, you could celebrate your birthday together. You can
we
be
could.
birthday.
We could celebrate our 40th birthdays together in 3 years, two and a half. Uh,
What about Cardi B? She's 7 days older than me. I'm like, we could celebrate our birthdays together when I'm famous.
Nice. Oh, so did you know he first moved to LA and with his father because his father was a fight coordinator for Tim Burton's Batman.
I actually did know that, and I should have brought it up because I talked about Batman already.
I
So
see. Yeah, yeah. And he's English too, I guess.
yeah.
I see. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, I don't really like Nepo babies, but that's not a Nepo baby for like because yeah, he's more famous than his father. Like he's more
Yeah,
success.
no
Like
one
it's
cares
not
about the stunt
the
coordinators
crew.
and
Like
fight
it's
choreographers.
he's
Yeah.
below the line. It's like Nepo baby stuff is above the line. Like you know. But yeah, I digress. Yeah, this was a challenging topic. I did yeah. Before I say, do you have more on Mortal Kombat?
No, I could go on for days, but I'll leave it there.
Yeah. Um, one other thing I'll throw in a quick, it's related because I could go on for days on the same topic, but I decided not to bring in for my choice. I guess you could say it's an honorable mention is Rocky Five.
Uh,
But I'm not sure if the bad stuff makes it good. I'm pretty sure I just have grown to overlook the bad now. I used to hate it, and now it's fine. That's it's related. Also, I didn't bring it in because I would have brought in all sports movies, right? So I ended up bringing in two sports movies that were like movies that were so bad that they were good. Because I had Prefontaine and Second String, and then I guess That's My Boy was my third pick, with my honorable mentions being other Adam Sandler movies and Con Air, I guess, and Rocky Five. And your list was again?
I had Batman and Robin, Velocipaster, and Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
Hell yeah, that's a great list. Um, yeah, this was a challenging one, but good. I had a lot of fun like reading all these like lists because was trying to figure it out. Like, cause I mean, I had the ones that I thought of, but when I was trying to come up with the third one, I was like, what are lists of like the worst movies or whatever and stuff. But there was a lot of fun thinking about it because there's a lot of different things I could pick. But we should wrap up here. I should wrap up here. So I guess it's my turn to pick the topic for the next episode. Um, and I was thinking, since a couple of my picks for this, and I was talking about it earlier, instead of me just pigeonholing sports movies and stuff into every conversation we're having, what do you think about doing maybe top three underrated sports movie or TV shows?
Okay.
And it could be a show or a movie that's about like it could be about a sports team or a sport. I'll be like a little loose on it, but prefer like underrated, which means I'm not going to bring in any Rocky movies. That's part of like I'm excluding that from myself at least. You can still be on your list if you choose. But I think underrated sports movie or show. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Because I do like sports movies a lot, and I've seen a lot of them. I'll try to bring in some underrated ones that I think are underrated because there's a lot of the big ones that are like super popular and everyone always talks about, but then there's a lot of like hidden gems in the sports movie world and TV show world. But yeah, any other
Okay.
thoughts?
No, I'm all good to wrap up.
Nice. Well, this has been something of a podcast. You can find us on Instagram at something of a pod. We have a Facebook page, something of a podcast. Find us on YouTube, youtube.com/@ something of a podcast, or just look up something of a podcast. Please like and subscribe on YouTube. Leave comments. That stuff is helpful, I guess. On whatever apps you do podcasts, we're on there. I'm Mike Gamms. I'm at Mike Gamms on a bunch of the apps. I'm going to be doing some Pride things and shows telling some jokes in the Western New York area over Pride. Go look it up on social media. I have it all there. And Kai, where can the people find you?
I'm on Instagram at Kai_VonDoom 77. Same for TikTok. And you could catch me if you're in Rochester, New York, hosting the Boulder Coffee Comedy Open Mic every Monday at 7 p.m.
Hell yeah. Well, all right then. Well, I will talk to you later. Peace out.
All right, later.
You know, I'm something of a podcast myself. I'm something of a podcast myself.